I think it's interestingly enough, you run your own podcast, I do my own. One of the benefits I got out of that is you've got to become a very good listener, right? You've got to really, so it takes a lot of concentration. It takes a lot of putting all the distractions aside. And again, it takes that mindset to say, look, I'm literally going to put myself all in there, really focus on the other person. And at the same time, I'm going to take my time because one of the things people do, they play the tennis game, right? You're already thinking about my response while you're talking. One of the tips I always say is just slow down. It's okay if there's a little bit of a pause, right? And one of the things that's always a good way to do is, hey, recap. The person said, hey, if I heard you correctly, and that's a little bit more in a business context. You don't want to do that too much socially, but I think it's such an important skill. And the other thing I would say is a lot of people, a lot of times are trying to prove themselves once you let go of that to say, let me just relax, be in the moment, it becomes a beautiful thing where you can just enjoy each other's conversation. Right. And at the same time, I also think it's important to say, let's find people who you are genuinely interested in. You can't fake interest to a certain extent. Right. So it's also being real, right? To say, let's steer the conversation in a way that we're both going to get a lot out of it rather than I spent 20 years in business. There's so many meetings and conversations that frankly, maybe only the presenter cared about. And there wasn't enough psychological safety in that room to say, hey, let's change this up. Let's be much more brief about this, or let's go a little deeper, or I don't understand. That's where, back to your point, conversation is such an important piece to continue to develop, right? So I
Yeah.
think it's one of the most underutilized skills